Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is HashQuest, and Avalon Hill Games' official Twitter account apparently has a hero question for us all. We have a hero question. See what we did there? Winky face. If we were to create a version of HeroQuest around a popular movie, TV series, or video game, what would you suggest? Participate in our brainstorm by commenting below #HeroQuestGame. The idea here is that they're canvassing for opinions, and maybe, just maybe, there is some inkling of genuineness here, a small percentage of sincerity that's asking us what we would prefer to see, and perhaps being willing and open to listen to all of the different possibilities, including the one where people say, just focus on making content for HeroQuest. But a large part of this feels to me, and I'm not saying I'm right, and I'm hoping that I'm not right, but with the recent layoffs and just the general tone of this and the timing of it, especially with the mythic and heroic tiers of HeroQuest having gone up to kind of clear out the warehouse, makes me feel very strongly that this has vibes that reek of, hi, I'm a Hasbro person, not necessarily an Avalon Hill person, who is taking over this account, and we at Hasbro would like to see if you guys overwhelmingly would pick a license for us to try to acquire and re-release HeroQuest with that license. Now, that could be a really good thing. That could be a really, really cool thing. We could finally start seeing stuff like a Dungeons & Dragons version of HeroQuest, not where the rules have changed, but where the visage of it is different, much like Monopoly, much like how there's 1,000 versions of that, much like how there are Star Wars chess sets. The fundamental mechanics of the game do not change. You can open up a box and no matter what the appearance is, begin to play the game that you already know how to play. It's that simple. But just the timing of this and the tone of it, and particularly specifying popular and then movie, TV series, or video game, it just reeks of well, more Hasbro than Avalon Hill. I'll put it that way. And I had some very strange comments these last few days with all of the quote-unquote controversial topics that I've kind of halfway covered, really just as a beacon to let people know, to shine a light on stuff if they weren't aware already. But just really, really strange comments. Some folks called me a Hasbro shill, which is not the case. This channel is not for Hasbro. This channel is not a general merchandising outlet news bit. This is for the game that we love and dungeon crawlers. This is Ash Quest. And a lot of that has to do with HeroQuest, and not just my association with it, but my involvements with the communities and the fun that we have in making stuff for it. When this comes from up above, like this here question is facilitating, it makes it a bit scary. It makes me feel like Hasbro could make decisions that, well, we've known them to not make the brightest, bestest decisions many, many times just in the last few years, just in regards to this game alone. So it's kind of a huge, giant red flag, the kind of red flag that you can't not see because it's directly in front of you and you're forced to see it. You can't even turn your head, and it's the size of a barn, that we could be walking into game stores before too long and seeing HeroQuest, Simpsons edition. And I mean, there's going to be folks out there that think, well, you know what? Let's look at the brightest side possible about this. That could get even more people interested in playing. It could actually get people interested in playing that would not have looked at it otherwise because they weren't into whatever the presentation is now. And they weren't into it, 30 years ago. But a Dungeons & Dragons sort of Forgotten Realms HeroQuest is something that, while I would kind of hesitate to argue on the side that it would be released with a high modicum of quality, and definitely something that would make everybody feel like the IP was being respected, there is a chance that it could be released in a way that respects both IPs. And I actually do like the Forgotten Realms, even though I don't support the business direction of Wizards of the Coast. There are a lot of things about Dungeons and Dragons that I do like. So I would probably be interested in seeing something like that. And I can also understand the perspective, again, looking at the bright side here, the positive side of things, that folks would say, well, if this is what gets more money to the main line of games, the game system, so that they can create more iterations of it, or the advanced quest version, a contemporary version of it, and more expansions and so on, then so be it, because I would rather see those than not see those. Well, I would kind of agree with that as well. One thing that I would hope wouldn't happen, because I try to look at both sides, not just the good and best sides, but also what could go wrong, is that, well, I would really hate to see a drop in quality for future expansions and versions of the game systems and stuff. And I'm not talking about manufacturing quality. I think Hasbro has that more or less in droves, as long as they have their QA in place now firmly. But the drop in quality because of the designers potentially being different. We, again, don't know exactly who's still at Avalon Hill, who's out, who's taking over things. Are people taking over? Is this really just Avalon Bill, who's sitting at a table with other people who are involved in the creative process with HeroQuest, and they are actually going to try their damnedest and their hardest and their best to get an IP on board to license that will sell more copies of the game, so that they can project things for the best, for the better, so that we can get our Wizard Quest Pack, our Dwarf Quest Pack, our Advanced Quest, our Dark Company, our other expansions that Avalon Hill have come up with that are unique to this new version of HeroQuest? Or is this a corporate move? The soulless winking face. It could go either way. I do have a bit of an anti-wink face dogma, but anyway, it could be the other way too. And hopefully it's not, where it's Hasbro putting folks in place that they can spare, that don't make as much money, that don't love the game, that are just here to throw licenses and IPs together so that more people will buy it. There are definitely good things to look at here. There are definitely worrisome things to look at here. What do you think? How do you interpret this tweet? Is it just a simple tweet? Will it even go anywhere? Will the community be so divisive in the comments that they'll say, forget about it? Will the community be so on board with all of the different IPs that it becomes pretty hard to argue against it, that this is actually what people who want to play the game want to see? A My Little Pony Friendship is Magic version of HeroQuest? I know we've joked about it on and off for the last probably year and a half. It is a possibility. It is a very real possibility that we could see something like that. And what else could we see? I don't want it to go the route of Monopoly. I don't think that that's helpful, because I think that the route that Monopoly has gone, it takes down the quality of Monopoly itself, as well as the IPs that it licenses. You've got like Dragon Ball Z Monopoly, and while that would be really fun if it was done a certain way, when you open up the game and you look at the tokens and you look at the board and what's on the properties, I don't think that there are very many Dragon Ball Z fans that would want to play Monopoly to begin with. And I don't think that there are very many Monopoly fans that are particularly interested in the lore and the setting of Dragon Ball Z. So I think it really just brings down both sides that it even exists. But that's really looking at things from like a cantankerous standpoint, and really looking at the bad side of things. I don't want to see HeroQuest fall into that myself. And I hope that that message is loud and clear from anybody else who shares that sentiment to Hasbro. Again, though, the timing is just really weird. It just comes off very strange right now with the news of the layoffs and people who we really actually had in our communities interacting with us. And we just don't know who this could be. Or I guess we know who it could be, but it's possible, very possible, that we don't know who it is. And we don't know what this question means for the future of the game system. So this was just a little bit of a bonus video for today. We're going to be getting Either it already has gone up or a little bit later, the Warlock of Firetop Mountain playthrough. If you'd like to see that, or you're interested in HeroQuest topics of any kind, please consider subscribing, checking out the rest of my videos. And if you want to support the channel, just subscribe and watch videos. That's all you got to do. That's it for me. Have a great rest of your time, and bye for now.